Hey guys, welcome to the Real Deal video blog. And this week I want to talk to you about long-term recovery. So, what does long-term recovery really mean anyway? Because, I'm sure you've seen those videos where people say stuff like, I'm so-and-so and I'm a person in long-term recovery. And there's that inspirational music playing in the background and it's very, it's very touchy-feely and stuff like that. You don't really get a medal saying long-term recovery after you've been sober for a certain period of time, and no one's going to tell you you're in long-term recovery or not in long-term recovery. It's something you really just have to decide for yourself and how much meaning it has. So it doesn't exactly work like in a specific way, but there really isn't an exact definition for what long-term recovery means, but we can take a look at what it does mean and what it means to us. And I think it's usually pretty easy to tell how much of a shot someone has of staying sober for any significant period of time. You see those kids whose parents put them into rehab, and they're really just waiting until they can get out and get high again. Unsurprisingly, they get out and maybe they go to sober living for a bit, but they eventually relapse and they're back out there and maybe they repeat that cycle for a while and hopefully get sober eventually. A lot of them do find recovery eventually. And basically, when people are forced to be sober for some kind of external reason, they're most likely not going to stay that way. There's always people who went to jail and had some kind of spiritual awakening and things like that, and that's great for them. But for the majority of people, when there's any kind of external force, it just really doesn't work for them. Even if they're doing it for a good external reason, like they're trying to get sober for their family so they can be there for their family, it usually doesn't work. The fact is that you simply have to get sober, and the desire to be sober has to come from a selfish place, basically, from the desire to make your life better, and you have to do it for you. So it's pretty easy to spot when someone's getting sober for the wrong reasons, when they don't really want it. But pretty much everyone, whether or not they are getting sober for the right reasons, has a pretty rough time in early recovery. They tend to make crazy choices, they might relapse, their lives are chaotic, they lose or gain weight. Generally things are just wild and crazy and emotional. It's a weird time for everyone, and there's a reason they say not to date for the first year of sobriety. It can just add more complications and stress and codependent relationships, things like that. And so, what's so significant about that first year? It's usually a pretty big milestone for a lot of people, and it's definitely a really good sign, although in some ways it really doesn't mean that much because people can relapse after 5 years or after 10 years. So you can't really use 1 year as a clear indication of too much, but so we can't give a number to long-term recovery, but I can say that people in long-term recovery have kind of figured most of what they need to figure out. They know what they need to do to stay sober, and they know what they need to do to stay happy and healthy. They're taking care of themselves, mind, body, spirit. They're doing what they need to do in all those aspects, and they're putting their recovery first. They're attending whatever meetings, therapy, and programs they need to regularly. There's an expression that people say, it's whatever you put before your recovery is the second thing that you'll lose, and these people who are in long-term recovery have figured out that that's a true saying, that they need to put this first and be selfish about it, and everything else will follow. So these people are usually involved with a community of supportive people that they have things in common with, often a recovery community. Sometimes it can take other forms. Basically, they're stable. They don't have to worry that today is going to be the day that they go back out, the day that they just can't take it anymore and they hit the liquor store and pick up a bottle or call their drug dealer or whatever. So, I'm sorry that I can't give you an exact answer to what long-term recovery is, but what I can tell you, guaranteed, is that if you keep doing the right things, you will get there.